Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Best of All Worlds podcast. It's your friends Jerry and Jonathan, as ever, joining you for another episode on our Trek Amongst the Stars. So, Jerry, when the last time we were on this show, we got stuck into the backstory of one of our characters, which has been our arc as of late on this series. We've been doing ones about various different characters in the lore of Star Trek, and one obviously was Spock, which we did to death in the episode of Muck Time. That went quite well, I thought, all things considered. Considering it nearly challenged our top two for supremacy, but it currently sits as our bronze medalist. But on this edition, we are going another generation, quite literally, to the next generation, with perhaps the only character we can do a deep dive of at the moment, seeing that it's in theme, in vogue at the moment, with what's coming out right now with Star Trek Picard. We are going to talk about an episode that's very Picard heavy, which is Tapestry. So Tapestry, if you don't recall, is very much the kind of, I'd call it the kind of culmination. All good things is technically the culmination of the Q and Picard kind of story, if you will. But I think Tapestry is perhaps the narrative point of that arc, where you can kind of see the change in how Q sees Picard as a sort of as more of an amusement rather than tormenting these people. It's something entertaining to him as well. As an immortal being to a mortal being would be, I guess.
Yes. Okay. When you first watch these episodes, especially the Q heavy episodes, when you first watched them, you would be mistaken to think that it's just him messing with Picard and messing with the other ones there. But when you actually look at it, and you have to do a deep dive into this, when you actually look at it and do that deep dive, and especially then looking at season 2 of Picard, you could think that no, he wasn't actually messing with Picard. He was trying to show Picard certain things. So let's take Cupid, for instance. So it very much looked like Q was messing with Picard.
Yeah.
But when you watch season 2 of Picard and you use hindsight, you look and go, could that potentially have been Q saying, you've never really trusted any women because of the situation with your mother. You've never really trusted them. You've never really been in improper relationships. You're not married. You have no kids. He's pushing him towards, like, it was Vash, wasn't it? Vash?
It was Vash, yeah.
Vash. So you could be mistaken for that. And I think this, look at the Borg. Look at Q Who.
Yeah.
That was very much Q warning the Federation that these guys were out there and they're on the way, and you're going to be seeing them real soon. So there was no fun in that episode. And then even this one, without actually getting into the meat of the episode, this could be very much you showing Card that he hasn't, whatever mistakes he believes he's made throughout his life, they weren't real mistakes, they were lessons.
Yes.
And he needs to live with those lessons. So that's the way I'm kind of looking at Q episodes nowadays, simply because of Picard season 2. When after you watch that and you see the culmination of that, you're like, okay, so he really wasn't messing with Picard all along. It was more a sense of, these are lessons, and these are things that you need to learn. It's not for me to learn them; it's for you to learn them, Picard. And that's kind of how I'm looking at Q heavy episodes now after watching Picard. That's how I see them.
Yeah, it certainly adds that kind of that extra bit of perspective to it, because I think even outside it, without the Picard season kind of like really drilling into that, you could have always made the argument it was that kind of Q found that level of that intellectual level with Picard very interesting, because even the first season almost seemed like a battle of wits between the two. And Q, if proverbially coming down to Picard's level, but also Picard going to Q's level as well. And then over time, because there's so many experiences with Q in between, is more of a case of like, eye roll, here comes Q again, let's entertain this omnipotent being. But it wasn't that. Q was obviously coming in with a point to be made about this one character. Because only outside of really the second Q episode, which was predominantly about targeting Riker, most of the episodes are about challenging Picard in some way, and not because of, like, again, not intellectually. It's like, you have a flaw in your character. let's work with that. It's almost like counseling for him in a very bizarre way, you
Yeah.
know. And that certainly is the case with Tapestry, where because up to this point in most of the series of Star Trek, or the Next Generation, I should say, Picard had always been very regretful of his mistakes. He wouldn't let himself, he wouldn't forgive himself for certain things, you know.
Yeah.
And very much when kind of old flames would arrive, he kind of go like, "I'm a fool," all this sort of stuff, you know. Like being very melodramatic about his brashness and his youth. Even as an episode before this in the second season, where he tells the story of being stabbed through the heart by Nausicaans to Wesley, and again was kind of lamenting how much of an idiot he was. Whereas Wesley's going, "You got stabbed? That's awesome!" And it's a complete different change of perspective. And now we're actually delving into that story, which I think
Yeah.
is fantastic use of stories you just like kind of thrown out into the ether, you
Mm.
know. Which again kind of started Picard is kind of doing now a little bit as well for season 2 and 3. They're just kind of picking it to pull like plot threads are always kind of dangling anyway, and just kind of adding more beat to it. So in any case, we're going to get stuck into that now, Jerry, because we are going to watch along this episode. Are you ready to begin?
I'm ready to rock.
Fantastic. So, as ever, the point of this show is it's literally best of all worlds. It's half watch along and half review. So, if you want to watch the episode along with us on your streaming platform of choice, we don't judge here, folks. You can press play when we do and watch the episode as we commentate and riff along with it. And if not, then just skip to about the halfway point of this video, and you'll get stuck into the review and the other extra bits that we do as part of this show. But if not, then strap yourselves in and enjoy the ride. So, I'll count us in, Jerry, if you will, on 3, 2, 1, engage. Immediately hot start.
Yeah.
You know it's a good episode when there's a hot start.
The fact that Worf is just casually holding him, like, you know.
Yeah. They seem to have poured some pea soup over him.
The bioregulator of his artificial heart has been fused. He's got liver and spleen damage. What kind of weapon caused this?
A compressed Terion beam.
40 cc's antiprotoline.
Oh, that's always a bad noise.
Cortex is falling. Cortical stimulators.
I like that Riker's still kind of there standing with a fractured skull going,
Yeah.
Nurse? Question mark?
Again.
I love the
Yeah.
jolting.
Brrr.
The levels in the acid cortex are still falling.
All we're missing is a set of pearly gates.
Yeah.
I love that you can already tell.
Yeah. It's just even how he says it. Welcome to the afterlife. You're dead. And I'm like, I love John Delancey.
Only Q would take genuine glee in saying that. It's like, dead. That's something that happens to you people, isn't it?
And then he died.
And then he died, yeah, of course. Oh, how
joke's on you, you benevolent bastard.
Ha! Now you know how it feels.
I don't know. I just have this funny feeling that he's not actually gone.
He probably isn't. He's gonna show up with a fucking finale or something. One last click of the fingers, some shit like that.
I don't want him to be dead. That's
no. Let the story play out as it is. It's fine. But yeah, much of your point you were saying about about the second season of Picard. It kind of felt like an expansion of the Tapestry episode, didn't it?
Oh, very much so. Very much
Didn't
so.
it? Towards the end, especially with when you're delving into the Picard backstory, which again we get a little bit of in this episode in terms of the parenthood and stuff like that.
Mm.
Like it's very much about his father and kind of issues between that, like, but very evident that the mother is absent.
Yeah.
Outside of the Silence Has Lease episode where they're all having their dreams basically fucking explored. So that's on there. Where no one's no. I remember the episode now. Not Silence Has Lease. Different episode. What a fabulous ship.
It's the best ship.
It is the best ship. There's actually no contest.
There is no contest at all.
You are a god. Totally different. He's like, you're not God. Oh, behave.
I love the hair.
Yeah.
It's so fucking tall.
and the starting of grain temples.
The universe is not so badly designed.
I love that line.
Luke, I told you not to go running off to that academy. I told you that Starfleet would bring you to a bad end. But you wouldn't listen. Now look at you. Dead before you.
You can see where Picard got his scowling.
Mm-hmm. When you see Picard with his father there, Picard looks positively young.
Yeah, exactly. We can bring up the Stargazer again. You asshole. We've been through this multiple times. See, this is him like throwing the bait out now and just waiting for him to bite here.
No intention of performing for your amusement. This is not for me, it's you, Jean-Luc. This is your opportunity. Peace with your sweet past. I believe that you are doing this for the benefit of my soul. Oh, now that you've shuffled off the mortal coil, we're free to spend a little time together.
When I say little, I mean eternity.
How much?
Here we go.
Now, you're sure you have no regrets or feelings of guilt about your former life on the island? Wine?
Perhaps a wee little confession if you're feeling up to it.
And my only regret is dying and finding you here. You wouldn't be healthy. After all, I was not the cause of your death. This one.
Do you need this back, by the way? Just wondering.
He might have lived if you had a real one instead of this unreliable piece of technology.
Shows you how advanced the future is when you can basically make a plastic ball into a heart.
Yep.
Heart.
I'm sorry, but the state of it.
I know. It's not even a heart. That's a potato. Look at them. Look at them double axe handles. Fabulous work. Ooh, snapmare. Nice. It's a natural response being stabbed through the heart, isn't it?
Yep.
It's like the funny bone, it's the same reaction.
It's unlike you, John, to have a sense of humor, especially if I get stabbed in the back. on this. There's far too much ego. Maybe it must have been far more interesting. Maybe you hadn't been. The thing is that I had to be impaled for the back before I learned that lesson. I started that fight with the philosophers. I started it because I was young and cocky. I've been more responsible. In those days, I wouldn't have needed this harm. And I would have died from a random energy surge 30 years later. So, if you had to do it all over again, things would be different.
The smack.
The fact that it comes off screen, it's like,
Bastard, what did you do?
don't golf clap me, you shits.
This is what I don't get, right? About Star Trek and their uniforms, okay? Think of this, right? This is in the 2330s, 2330s, 2320s, something along those lines. And that uniform, minus the collar, is the same uniform Kirk had back in the 2270s.
Yes, essentially, yeah.
So
a few,
that uniform is about, those uniforms are, give or take a few little bits. It's about 50, 60 years old.
Yeah.
You can't get a uniform for a single fucking season now in Star Trek.
No, that's true. Well, I think it's also like they did make this point that like that era of Star Trek was still very or the Starfleet was very militarized. So this is almost like it kind of is when they're starting to tone it down, but it's still kind of there in situ. I have to remember what uniforms they used for yesterday's Enterprise. I'm nearly sure they were the same.
They're the same as
type,
this,
which would have been the same. Nearly the same type time period. So
yeah, give or take a few years.
Yeah, about that. To be honest with you, I think it's just any excuse to get those uniforms out of the fucking department because they are fabulous fucking get-ups.
In fairness, they are.
Yeah.
Although the Strange New Worlds version of this, so stop. Nice. Oh, suits you, sir. Suits you, sir.
Suits you, sir. It's so much easier. Not even joking. Like literally in college, like if someone was out for 3 days, they were just dead. It's easier. It's so much easier in the long run.
Jesus Christ.
I'm intrigued to see how this game of salt chess is going to go. Let's just keep this line for the season finale of Next Generation. Yeah, just gonna leave that there.
Oh. Oh dear.
Checkmate.
The only thing at stake here is your life and your peace of mind. You know where you are? Brothers, yeah. Came here right after graduation. Still waiting on first deep space assignments. That's right. It's 2 days before your unfortunate encounter with the Nautican sword. You have that long to make whatever changes you wish. If you can avoid getting stabbed with a heart, this time, shut down. I will take you back to what you think is. You will belong. for the meal.
If you only had a heart.
We'll just be a later time. You die on the table, and we spend eternity together.
Mhm.
It's a very, very small thing that Stewart does in that scene, but he just gives that little bit of a smirk, knowing that the Maverick was still there a little bit when he kind of started talking about
Mhm.
all the encounters over the years. And you do see elements of that over certain episodes as well, when he is kind of let loose away from the kind of the command role. You can see it in him, like, you know.
Yeah.
Rigel. What's wrong?
Oh dear.
Wrong answer. In fact, actually, that line is a reference to the original Star Trek.
Oh.
It's like one of the first few episodes, and Kirk is using that as a kind of as a nice way of saying that this person is looking old. McCoy is seeing this person as a young, like attractive, as he remembered this person, and then Kirk is seeing her as like an octogenarian. He goes like, "Bones, she's a very handsome woman, but I don't see."
I was always intrigued by this game.
Hmm. It just seems like billiards with like an obstacle course. Like,
Well, to me, like exactly what you said is billiards on an obstacle course, but it's like
yeah,
billiards mixed with pinball.
yeah, like you have to. I think it seems to hit it with the with. That's it. Yeah.
He dried up very quickly.
He did actually, yeah. It when you're bald like this, the any moisture absorbs very quickly.
Thank you.
Wow, Earthworm Jim was pissed at him there.
Let's start with the Dom job for a living.
This is nothing. Trigonometry, my wrist action. There's
One.
Hmm.
Du-du-du-du.
Dun, 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 dun.
I think I could be persuaded by one.
I see that the Nazicans have gone to Kane for their hair tips.
So can I? No, go on, listen. This is weakness. Go.
He just loves showing up in these scenes, doesn't he? He's like, "Hi, I'm being portrayed."
Sorry to disappoint you. It's as well as seems to be doing.
Maybe we should annoy them instead.
Figure it out later. Right. And then that's when the bench decisions. We did last night. I bring the tables. We were ready for rematch. And Oscar didn't take nor his friends. And get you ready.
He's so good.
Fantastic.
Places I've never seen.
I would bet my side parting on him cheating. I'm gonna control my balls instead. You know what I mean?
Jesus.
Come on, they're young. They're young cadets. They've studied the tapes of Captain Kirk. They know how to get ahead in Starfleet. Again, it's a very small thing here from shooting this, but he is kind of doing like, I'm trying to fit in with the cool kids here.
Hello, fellow schoolgoers.
How do you do, fellow cadets? Have you heard of the chain command? Wow, what a bunch of mean guys, am I right?
Yeah, and there were definitely only 4 lights.
It's just usually but I always suspected you in the street response.
That was just about getting older.
Bars are just starting to feel heavier. And some
What is second name? Betenities. What the fuck
Tennities,
is
yeah.
that?
the dreams.
Dirt. Fucking dirt.
Yeah.
Conflicts, no doubt. Get some things I find
Did I interrupt?
It's the red bow tie that gets me. It's just the
Yeah.
hello.
It's the Cupid badge.
Yeah, that too, actually. Yeah. Oh, I'm so mischievous. Bump. I'm like the shit Terminator.
The shit. What the fuck?
Well, gee, I guess I'll just have to go tell those Noskin that. Better. Now I'm gonna finish my work here. My help. Fine. Now I'll see if I can stop doing this. Are you gonna hit them, John? No.
Don't tempt me though.
Don't tell the gambler for something tampering with his gun.
Have it.
Ooh, he's rank named us. We're in trouble.
The dirty bastard.
This is one of those episodes where you'd love to slice in the Paragon and Renegade options from Mass Effect, wouldn't you? This is one of those episodes you roll with moral choices.
Yes.
Nice to see that they predicted the PlayStation 3 there in the foreground. But, the slim version, that is, of course. The shape is exactly the same.
A little bit.
Yeah. What do you mean? You've always crossed my legs.
Serious. Maybe I'm just not used to seeing. No, it's more than that. You do seem to, not manner, and it's good.
Really?
Hmm.
Ooh.
Dirty old Picard.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but this, together. Why didn't you ever say so?
Dirty old Picard.
Remember, to her, he's young Picard with the hair and the real heart. It's a real heart he has.
Dirty fucker.
Jesus. Fucking
They really
committed.
went for it there, didn't they? Jesus
Absolute
Christ.
fucking hell.
Yeah, but you can actually see he's kind of going toward that.
Yeah.
And she just went, ah.
This is fucking.
I do love this. Yeah. I don't understand why
One
he
nipple.
covers his chest. Like, it's so silly.
He's like, oh.
It's a very small double fucking bed. Let's be
It's
honest.
fucking tiny. Like, what the hell? Nothing more. Pints? That's kind of how it works, yes.
We've been friends for a long time.
The one that instigate the fucking thing.
You started it.
Supposed to get together later.
Ooh. Is it the theme of the episode kicking in? Regret.
Well, let's see. You managed
Hello, Dr. Rhubarb speaking.
to be replaced by another hit. That's great. They go so far. The only thing left with woman is getting stabbed through the heart.
It's like, ow. Hmm. Ah, yes, there we go. Awkward silence.
Mm-hmm.
When you realize you three weren't actually friends to begin with.
I hear that Captain Knox next to those. So I hear. Well, here's to the class of 27.
These are the last three props we could find in the shop. Let's enjoy.
Hey, John, man. Wait, a chance. Biggest me. They are done. Words. A word. The door stop beneath you talking.
Oh, Colin, look, there are plenty of other people to play dumb jobs with. Now just go about your business.
Maybe I play with her. Give her a good time.
Whoosh. Oof.
That was a bad bump, in fairness.
It really was. Like, he does a nasty fucking spill. In their time of evolution, the Nauticans never really quite learned how to laugh. I need the side teeth to kind of get in the way.
but you're not.
Keep the change? Question mark? Like, what the fuck? Now we move on to level 2. The consequences of your actions.
This is not for me. Should take it for
Oh, this is how confused he is here. Read your pip spell.
Lieutenant Junior Grade, Assistant Astrophysics Officer. You feeling all right? Who's the captain? How? So she was working sick there. No, I can thank you. Thank you, come on. Beverly, something has happened to me. I'm not sure. That seems to be the trouble, Lieutenant Picard. What have you done? I've done exactly.
For instance, I didn't realize that the uniform's in this color.
Not only that, it doesn't fit him properly.
No. An extra
But
form of punishment.
That's by design.
Yes.
What you did? This is the man.
Boom.
Yeah. Nicely done.
Jean Luc, isn't it? No, it's Counselor. I would very much like to hear your thoughts. First of all, and I would like you to be absolutely straightforward with me. How would you that play this house?
Well, the performance records have always been good. Your definitely.
Steady, reliable, punctual.
This is fabulous stuff here.
I told you that I believe that I was capable of being very much more. Perhaps we should discuss this at your next evaluation. I would appreciate it if we could discuss it now. You see, I feel that I would like to move beyond the astrophysics to engineering or security, something that might even lead to command. Frankly, Lieutenant, I don't think that's realistic.
I really don't think this is the place to be discussing this.
This is very important. I believe.
Throughout your career, you have loved the goal. You've never been willing to do what's necessary to attain it.
Would that be your evaluation as well? I think I have to agree with the council. Want to get a plan? You have to take a chance. Stand out in the crowd. Get noticed. Now, we don't want to lose. You're a very good officer. Just not one who stands out. Why don't I talk to Commander Report and during this? Come on. We'll see.
You can see he was ready to get up there.
He's ready to get up there,
it's-
forced to have it. I love it. That must hurt. Having to say that. You know, Q likes Picard because if he didn't, he'd leave him here for like a few weeks.
Yeah. Even a few days would do it. Like,
yeah. Hey. The hand on the hips, the Irish mammy stance. When you go out and you come back
for your dinner.
Fucking 2:00 in the morning. Get the fuck into this house.
You gave me the chance to change, and I took the opportunity. But I admit now, it was a mistake. Are you asking me for something, Jean Luc? Give me a chance to put things back the way they were before you died in sickbay. Is that what you want? I would rather die as the man I was than live the life I just saw.
That was the correct answer. You won tonight's Star Prize. A stab through the heart. Boom. And away we go. We're off to the races.
He barely flinched.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's able to knock the shit out of him.
Oh, yeah. It's that Starfleet training. It's double axe handles. It all comes into play. It's a very small thing, but at least Picard's part of the fight is playing it exactly as we saw at the start of the episode.
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening here. Apart from the laughing stuff, though, that there's something going on here. We may have an undiagnosed concussion.
I have to say, I think Riker's injury looks incredible.
Yeah, doesn't it? It looks like he's growing a horn, which is a fairly typical Riker thing to do.
Yeah.
I'm adding a +1 for the cozy jacket.
And, there's part of me that cannot accept that you would give me a second chance. Or that you would demonstrate so much compassion. And if it was Q, I know in the desert where it's what sense? It sounds like you put that through hell. There are many parts of my youth that I'm not proud of.
Ding, 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 ding. We got the word of the day, folks. Oh, he's doing some reminiscing.
Well, there was a Nautical
And John and Riker had to listen to that story for 4 hours. The end. So there you have it. That's Tapestry in the books. Again, it's one of those episodes that like it's a really just nice, pleasant episode to have like late season where, again, yeah, they spend a bit of money on it, whatever it is, and there's a lot of action to break it in between. But it's a lovely deep dive into a character, which is something they did a lot in the later series because that's kind of what people wanted in the end. You know, outside of the cool episodes like two parters and all that, but like it's one of those episodes where I feel like the more you watch it, the more even the more you watch it, but like, you definitely take something away from that episode. Like especially the way it's written and the way it's staged, that like if you're paying attention and you're listening to what it's saying, there's certainly something you can take away from it personally.
Yeah,
at least I feel.
No,
Did you enjoy the episode?
I agree with you there. I always enjoy watching that episode. I agree with you there, but it's exactly what I said before the episode started. When you're looking back after watching Next Generation for better part of 30 odd years, and now you watch with hindsight after watching Picard, you're like,
yeah.
Picard obviously at that stage was surprised that Q would show him any type of compassion or give him any type of second chance. Whereas you look at season 2 of Picard and you realize that was the plan all along, was the plan to, you know, I don't really want to get into too much of a spoiler with regards to Picard because I know a lot of people still haven't really seen it.
Yeah.
But the line that he says in it is that gods have their favorites, Jean-Luc, and you've always been one of mine. And I'm like, oh Jesus. When you actually look at it and you look at every Q episode, he wasn't trying to mess with Picard. He was trying to help Picard. The only time he ever tried to mess with people was when he went toe to toe with Benjamin Sisko, and he loved to piss off Janeway.
Yeah.
Let's be honest, because anything he did with Janeway was just simply to piss her off.
So they wound her up. Yeah, that's all it was.
He only ever did one nice thing for Janeway, and was, it was actually an episode I watched today, actually, because I had it on kind of in the background. It was when Q's son came to live on Voyager.
Yeah, Q2. Yes.
Q2, and it was a thing where, obviously he's trying to teach the young lads some responsibility and what it means to be a Q and whatnot. And right at the end of the episode, he says, "There's a little present for you. I think consider it a thank you for everything you've done for my son." And she was like, "Well, you know, if you're going to do something like that, would you not just bring us all the way home?" And he was like, "No, I wouldn't be very much of a good example if I did that. No, thing is, all he has to do is hand their home, you know." But Q is one of those characters that you can watch him 1,000 times, but you'll still never really understand him. I like that about him. Yeah. I like that.
There's always a natural ambiguity about him, and that's what makes him so interesting, because there's certain aspects of the character you can read into and interpret and infer a few things that he does, but you never know for certain. And there's very few people in the world that know that for certain. And I think that's one of the great advantages of the people they get on to do Star Trek, is that the actors themselves invest in the character. They become that character. You know, I'm sure we mentioned before with different Q episodes, but John Delancey was obviously inspired a lot by Trelane in the original series when it comes to making Q, and it was essentially the same character. Like, that's all it was, really. It was Gene Roddenberry recycling an idea he had in the previous series, and that's all season 1 was. It was a rehash of all the old stories from the first show, and basically given a kind of a proverbial HD upgrade. And as we saw from most of the episodes of season 1, they were terrible fucking ideas. But what came out of that was they want any of the kind of highlights were the likes of Q, anything like that, and when actors get invested in their own characters, it's very, very evident. And what it means then is that character is just as rich as the actor is. When someone like actually, I'll bring this up more in the scoring because I think it's actually more pertinent there. But I just want to make that kind of the aspect of this character would not exist, or this episode would not exist if you didn't have two characters that were 100% invested in the character. Kind of way. If you had two kind of like if you had actors who didn't really see Star Trek as anything more than just day job, they wouldn't get this kind of exposure. It's a bad example. I'll be fair, because I know Robert Beltran is coming back into the Star Trek kind of inner circle a bit more. But during his time as Chakotay, you didn't get that idea that he was invested 100% in the character. Now, granted, the stuff he was given was shite. Yes. But you can hear there was no real kind of one-to-one proportion between him and Chakotay. Yeah. It was very much like, I'm playing Chakotay, I'll say the lines, and there we go.
Chakotay was one of the less fleshed out characters in the whole of Voyager. Like, the fact that a hologram is more fleshed out than he was.
Well, it's also a wasted opportunity as well, because of the stuff with the Maquis and all that. That stuff just gets dropped after a while, unfortunately. And again, that's not Robert Beltran's fault. It's just that he didn't get that same investment into his character then, say, Robert Duncan McNeil did, or Robert Picardo, as you said. Like, again,
a lot of Roberts.
Yeah, there's a lot of fucking Roberts. But much to that point, like Robert Picardo, 100% into the Doctor. He went straight.
He lived that character. Even now, he still lives that character.
And that's the same as him overall. Even in Stargate, he's 100% into his character.
Any character he does, he gets into it 100 million%. Yeah. I particularly loved Woolsey from Stargate. I thought he was a fantastic character. When you first meet and you think, well, it's only like a 1 or 2 episode thing he's going to be in. He's such an arsehole. He's such an arsehole. But then as soon as he takes over command of Stargate itself, not Stargate, of Atlantis, I love him. The fact that he's in his uniform, and he says, "Oh, I'm just going to change into something more comfortable." He comes down in a 3-piece fucking suit, and you're like, "I thought you were changing to something more comfortable." I am. This is so much more comfortable. I'm like, oh, okay. But he lived the character. But there is no character that he has done as well as the Doctor.
Yeah, no,
and he was fantastic as the Doctor. The fact that obviously this one, they wanted to have him as this series' data, basically. Essentially that's what it was. But with emotion and with everything that came with the Doctor, kids, it was fantastic. Everything from having his own family to having sexual relations with a woman who is, her mind is in a hologram, but her body is slowly dying. To the fact that he finally gets out of sick bay in the mobile limiter, and then the episode, like what I consider to be the Doctor's best episode, Message in a Bottle. It's good. If we were to do and we probably will do something along
in fairness, we told the characters we're going to do this arc again. Like, there's no doubt about that.
We'll probably do something along the lines of funny episodes as well. That would knock the crap out of any funny episode. Now, saying that, anything to do with Quark and the Ferengi is definitely going to challenge it. But I think Message in a Bottle, him and Andy Dick, it was so good. The fact that you're getting to see a bit of the Alpha Quadrant again, you got to see a Nebula class, and 2 Defiance and Akira, the Prometheus, Romulan ships, so good. So good. So
it's definitely on our radar for future episodes.
Exactly. 100%. So when you have somebody who is invested in the character, like as you say, it just stories will just roll. They'll just go with it. Whereas
they probably write themselves, because this is stuff that's been in the character Bible somewhere, just waiting to be tapped into.
Like, definitely Robert Beltran was unfortunately did suffer from that. He wasn't really invested in it, and as you say, he is kind of coming back now. We will see where they go with that.
You're seeing he's getting a lot more love in Prodigy. That's the thing. Prodigy is where you're getting the bulk of the kind of Chakotay story now, in the sense where, like, what's he done after Voyager, and you can see he's a very integral part into into what's happening in with the protostar, and that's good. That is what you want. It's giving him some, like, even more than Janeway actually in that sense. But that's what you want, and it's giving the character some justice as well, which I think is just deserved as well. So let's get stuck in then on to our extra bits before we do our review. So we have no ships to talk about here because all we saw was the beautiful Enterprise, which you've done to death at this stage.
Give it a 20.
Yeah, okay, it's 100% perfect, beautiful. Never change it. But in any case, we'll get down to the guest stars then. In that sense. So again, bit slim pickings here. A lot of one and dones in this episode, but we do have one person who has made multiple appearances, and we're going to start with him today. His name is Clint Carmichael. And if you reckon you haven't recognized him, it's because he was the Nausicaan.
Nausicaan, yeah. The talking Nausicaan, I'm assuming.
Indeed. And now I'm not going to quiz you on this one, Jerry, because this will be a bit of a cheat on my side, but he's made 3 appearances altogether in Star Trek. So again, very much like the reason I'm not going is because this is mostly on the prosthetics, so I can't really quiz you on this one. So you've got the Nausicaan in Tapestry, but he's also in the episode Prey from Star Trek Voyager.
He's don't say it. He's a. Oh, go on, tell me. I can't remember their names.
He is
the Hunters.
The Hirogen, yes.
Hirogen, yeah.
Oh, he is in fact actually 2 Hirogens in that episode. Would you believe? So the way it works, where like they have the beta Hirogens and you have the Hunters essentially. So we actually played both in that episode.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Prey is the one where they're chasing the species A472. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it is. Yeah. So yeah, he serves in both of those episodes. And again, the reason you can tell the difference is that the beta Hirogen has the kind of face like revealed, and the kind of construction's a bit different, and that. But the Hunter has the actual kind of the face mask around it and the paint on the helmet and stuff like that. But yeah, like you wouldn't necessarily recognize him under the prosthetics, which is why it's fair that we didn't quiz you on that, because that would be a bit unfair. But in terms of the other stuff that Clint has done, a lot of kind of unnamed guest roles would be the kind of obvious one there, and he also kind of voiced act Nausicaans in the game Elite Force 2. Outside that, he hasn't really done that much in Star Trek, obviously. But in terms of some of his other work, he's done, should we say, a lot of stunt work. I think he was a stunt guy in Naked Gun, would you believe? But he's also done a lot of filmmaking and kind of working actor as well. He was a producer of the movie The Action Hero's Guide to Saving Lives. And he also appeared in the movie Big Bad as Sheriff Evans. So he's done a lot of kind of like little kind of bits and bobs like that, but a lot of it can be just down to actual roles in TV shows as well. So it's kind of he can mix and match, I suppose, in that sense. So yeah, that's Clint Carmichael, our only multiple appearance in this series, in this episode. So we'll move on then to the rest of them. We'll start off then with Clive Church. Clive Church is the man who played Maurice Picard in this episode. So as you may have guessed from the accent, he's obviously from England, Elmsworth to be precise. He died in 1999 actually, so not too far away from this episode itself, at the age of 82. And would you believe, but apparently this is his only known acting performance. He has not appeared in anything else. This is the only time you see Clive Church on TV.
So yeah, I'm saying so obviously somebody knew him. And
yes,
you'd be a great as Picard's father. We're gonna bring you in. But he was so good.
He was really good. It was like it was. I feel like maybe at some stage he was on a standby if they ever did Picard in-depth one, and they just never got around. This was it, obviously, but like if there was an episode fully about Maurice Picard, he would have been deployed here. It's almost like we know exactly who to have as someone who obviously looks a bit like Patrick Stewart and has the same tone of voice. This can ape the same mannerisms, let's say.
Yeah.
He's obviously the right person for this. But again, yeah, it's baffling that this is his only appearance ever. Like according to everything outside of this is the only time he's actually been seen acting, which is
That's
bizarre.
mental. I think that's
Yeah,
mad.
very
That's
very
mad.
strange. Yeah. Now, obviously, Maurice Picard. If we are going to do an in-depth on this, we see a lot more of this in Star Trek Picard season 2. Maurice Picard is played by James Callis in that episode, and of course we know James Callis a lot from Battlestar Galactica and a lot of other stuff that he's been in.
It's been in loads of things.
He's been in loads of things, but like a lot of people would kind of see him immediately as Dr. Gaius, Baltar from Battlestar Galactica. But it's certainly the character Maurice Picard didn't really get delved into until season 2. Like we know of him a lot from Beta Canon and stuff like that, and the kind of genealogy of the Picard line. Because obviously Robert Picard is mentioned quite a bit. We obviously watched an episode recently too. But yeah, no, this is the only mention of him in the Next Generation at the very least. Yeah, that's it for them. So next up then is Marcus Nash, who played Ensign Jean Luc Picard in this episode. So he was the young boy in the flashback that gets stabbed through the heart and chuckles his way through it.
Good enough for him.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it was a good role. It was a good role. He played it well. But a very fun fact here, and again, this is a case of small world syndrome. So Marcus Nash has a sister called Jennifer Nash, and she was also in Star Trek, but she played. She was in the episode The Inner Light. She was actually Meribor, which would have been Picard's daughter.
Oh,
or
yes,
exactly. Actually, granddaughter. I apologize. So yeah, against small world syndrome, you have one guy playing young Picard, and the sister ends up being the granddaughter. It's kind of weird how that works, I suppose. But shows you how small the world can be. In terms of his other works, he has been in the short movie Tolerance. It was put out in 2000. He was also in the comedy Career Suicide, which he produced himself. And he was also written comedy Tripping Forward, who also his sister was in that as well. And he's also written the Western Peace and the thriller Lost Lake that was released in 2011. So again, very much a case of like more screenwriting than anything else. But as I said, it's a nice bit of crossover there as well in terms of what else he's done. But again, bit of producing, bit of writing, a bit of a mix of everything really. In that sense. So we'll move on then to, I suppose, the three prominent characters, if you will, in this episode. We'll start off with Ray Norman, who played Penny Morrock, the handsome woman in this episode. So Ray Norman has been around for quite some time. She died 2 years ago at the age of 62. But has been in quite a lot, again, with a lot of Star Trek alumni in that sense. She was started off essentially in the thriller True Colors, which was from 1991. She also appeared in a few horrors and thrillers over the years, such as The Dentist 2, Lover Madly as well, and the crime drama Chasing Ghosts. And film work wise, her last entry was Five Nights in Hollywood. And then television wise, she was in a lot of Tales from the Crypt. She was also in Seinfeld, Boston Public, and Desperate Housewives, and Cold Case, amongst many others. But this is our only entry into the Star Trek catalog, if you will, and very much, I'd say, relish the idea of just throwing water into Patrick Stewart's face.
I'd imagine loads of people would relish at doing that. You don't have to hate him usually. Let's fuck some water in his face.
Yeah, fuck it, why not? Look, when you have the chance, you take it. Isn't that it? So next up then we'll go with is J.C. Brandy. So J.C. Brandy, full name is Justine Chelsea Brandy. She played the role of Ensign Marta Batanides, or Batanides, whichever way you want to pronounce it. Again, strange surname, but it wouldn't be Star Trek if there was obscure surnames in it. So yes, she was in this episode. She's only 17 in this episode, would you believe? Which
that's why I said dirty old Picard.
I know, yeah. But yes, obviously she's kind of like checks out in terms of the age for cadet/ensign at this stage. But yeah, she's actually from Chelsea, in London. But again, you probably wouldn't have picked out from the accents, would you believe?
No.
In terms of her stuff, she's actually a musician, as opposed to an actor. But of course, has done acting on the side as well. She actually plays Jamie Lloyd in the movie Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers. So that's where you'd probably know her from the most, in that sense. But she's also she's hilarious enough, actually, in Legally Blonde as part of the soundtrack. She contributes some of her music to that, to that as well. And again, she kind of pops up in various other entries as well. She's in CSI for an episode. She's also in Days of Our Lives, the soap drama in the States, and she's also just kind of pops in a little bit for certain music as well. But certainly kind of a mixture, as I said, of both acting and music as well. So it's a nice mix to have, of course. But we have no sign of Marta Badneeds in the rest of canon lore, Star Trek lore at the moment, that we can see. Although let's have a little dabble into beta canon, perhaps, if there is anything at all. Yeah, she's actually has been appeared in a couple of things actually. Okay, right. So according to, in Star Trek beta canon, she would have been acquainted with Rachel Garrett when they were at Starbase Earhart. So when she left to go to the Carthage, then Garrett goes off to the Enterprise C, and kind of gets mixed in with a couple of cartels. Yeah, so again, fairly relatively interesting work. She's also, I think she gets involved in Section 31 according to this novel as well. So that's interesting. So again, another one of those characters they just kind of just give a backstory in beta canon. So that's something, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So last then on our list is Ned Vaughn, who played Ensign Corton Zeller, or Zeller if you prefer, depending on how you pronounce his German surname. And obviously you will know him as the Red Side Parting. That was his true name, after all. Yeah, like he's done a lot of work, in fairness. Again, you would probably know him a lot from like various other shows, such as where would you start off? So recurring roles would be like Life Goes On, Murder One, Walker Texas Ranger. He guest starred in, and Jag. We guest stars as well.
I definitely know his face when I saw it.
Yeah.
When you see his face, you're like, fucking know him from somewhere.
You probably might know him actually from the movie Billy the Kid, and the television movie, that is, not the some of the other stuff that's there. Because again, he co-starred with Renee Auberjonois. So again, small world syndrome.
Yeah.
So in terms of other kind of major films, he was also in. You might actually recognize him for a few of these movies. The Hunt for Red October. Apollo 13, Courage Under Fire, Frost Nixon. And The Rescue as well.
It's probably Hunt for Red October is where I know him from.
Yeah,
he was on the sub.
Now, actually, this is quite a rarity, I think, because I'm not familiar with any other people in Star Trek with this view, but he is a registered Republican, and attempted to run for a seat in the California State Assembly. And he won it. In fact, he won it from a fellow Republican. But he didn't make it out the primary, unfortunately. I think he's one of very few Republicans in Star Trek, which is quite, or at least kind of well-known, prominent Republicans, shall we say? But yeah. It's interesting.
Okay, well, that's grand. We can stop talking about him now.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're done. I think we made our point there. In terms of the character Corton Zeller, let's have a little dabble in beta canon. Is there anything interesting? He's in Section 31. That's essentially what happens there. So that kind of checks out, doesn't it?
Jesus.
So yeah, that's all we have to say about that episode. So right then, so let's get stuck into the scoring then, Jerry, because this is what we're here to see. Yeah. We'll see how Tapestry ranks with its next generation cohorts and with the top of the pile. So let's start off with the plot. It's a good hook starting off. Great premise. How do you find the rest of the episode, Jerry?
The very start of the episode, it's action. As soon as it boom, you're like, oh fuck, Picard is down. What's going to happen? Okay, Beverly's there. She's gonna save him. But then you're like, oh shit, welcome to the afterlife. You're dead. and that I'm like, whoa, you're immediately sucked in. Like, where the hell is this going? Where are they going to go with this? I thought it was fantastic, start to finish. It was a really, really thought about episode. It was a really, really fleshed out episode. It gave you so much. For 45 minutes, it gave you so much. I'd go 8 to 9 with this one.
Yeah, I was gonna meet with 8.5, and the reason I say that is because when I kind of boil this episode down to its basic kind of parts, the episode very much is the premise of what would you do if you had a second chance at your kind of like your past experiences. And I'm gonna probably explore this more in the writing than anything else, but I think it's a very good premise and explored really, really well for a character we all know really to death at this stage, especially if you're a captain of a starship. You get all the good stories. You know, you're the most interesting person on the ship outside of maybe fucking Barkley on a good day. So, or Guinan whenever she's around. So like you're always gonna have something to talk about with the captain. So yeah, in the writing I'll kind of delve into how they kind of deliver the premise. But yeah, I think as a hook, as a concept, it's really, really good and a nice strong episode in that sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, 8.5, I'm happy with that there. Next one then is a setting. So again, we get a nice fresh kind of few sets here. Because again, it's mostly off ship, which is good. Again, very kind of small sets, because again, we're talking about like ensign quarters and a bar and all these things, and if that doesn't work, just white, the color white everywhere. So it's a bit of a mix. How did you find the setting? Because again, we're talking about like changes of scenery, the moods, all that sort of stuff. How did you find that?
When it comes to Star Trek, you know, they tend to go for like the clinically clean starships. Like, look at Voyager, look at the Enterprise. You know, it's really clinically clean. You can almost smell the disinfectant. It's that clean. So when you finally get something that's a bit grubby, a bit dirty, a bit not too clean, it always makes me happy. But you know, you look at the bar situation, and the bar was a bit of a dive, but it was exactly what they wanted. You know, they wanted somewhere like that. And I think the set design was fantastic. I loved the Damjat table. It's a fantastic looking game. Would actually love to see. I don't, because you know, when it comes to Star Trek fans, they have made up so many things. You know, it's I don't even want to try to fucking say here, but you look at the chess, right? So that was just a prop. People actually made it into a game, and I like you've also it's not Dabo, but there's the Ferengi game. You know, the Ferengi game they play.
It's acquisition, is or something like that. It's
you know, Quark plays with Jadzia, and they turn evade. You know that type of thing. Confront, evade, and all that shit. So I'd imagine somebody has made
I think
actual
it's Tongo you're thinking of.
That's it.
Tongo.
So I imagine somebody has made this into an actual game, or it is an actual game, and they took elements from it, whatever it may be. I would love to play that game. I would, just seeing that, because I think it's the only time we ever see a Damjat table, I believe. It's mentioned many times in Deep Space Nine, because Jake and Nog play it all the time.
Yes,
they play Damjat all the time. But I would love that table. I would love to be able to play that game. As a, you know, the grubbiness of it was cool. It was nice to see something other than a normal kind of quarter area. Like, this was different. Where Picard's quarters were. It was different. It was unique. It was something that we hadn't seen before. Even some which is the white light. It's like, he's dead and he's gone to there, and you're like, this is cool. You know, this is cool. But I particularly like the bar. I thought the setting was very good. I thought how it looked when you actually looking at it. You know, you look at behind the bar.
Yeah,
does it really look like a bar? And you're like, yeah, because you've got the bottles, you've got the glasses, you've got the various little, like, kind of little knickknacks around and stuff like that. It's kind of like when you look at Quark's bar, you know it's a bar.
Yeah.
You know it's a bar because it's so well laid out, and that's what this is. It's really, really well laid out. The design of it was really good. So yeah, I definitely think it was. I definitely think it was something different, something we hadn't really seen before, or at least hadn't seen in a while. Obviously, when it comes to Star Trek, you see a lot of bars.
Yeah.
You do really see a lot of bars. So I'm gonna go. Ooh, I'd say 7 to an 8 for this one. It can't go too high, but 7 to an 8.
Yeah, let's go 7.5 then in that case.
Yeah, cool.
We'll go that way. Okay, yeah, so next then is the writing. So this is one of the stronger categories going by my kind of scoring here when I was writing these down. And there are a lot of strong categories in this episode for me in this one. But the reason I'm kind of giving a lot of points to the writing is that it isn't just a simple like and everything is fixed again type of episode. I know it kind of ends that way because Q turns everything back. But my point is that this is kind of tied into whenever we talk about the inner light, because the inner light and this episode have a bit of a theme to it as well, is that kind of that idea of second chances and doing something different with your life. Because the inner light's initial premise is essentially you're living an entire different life in the blink of an eye, and you're a different person as a kind of a consequence. So I think when we ever review that episode, I'll do deep into it, because that's genuinely one of my favorite episodes ever of Star Trek. It's one of my strongest ones. But in terms of the writing here, again, it's given that kind of nuanced aspect of not only are your life at the moment is the consequence of your actions up to this point, but it's also the consequence of your mistakes. And every person is not necessarily defined by their mistakes either. It's what they've done all the time. It's every aspect of that.
Yeah.
So what you decide as a mistake now was obviously what you thought was justified back then, and all these other things in between. And of course, hindsight is 2020. That is the biggest power of all this thing. You are going back to it, and you're more mature adult, and you're more sensible, and you're experienced, and you realize I was a fucking arsehole 12, 13, 15 years ago. You're obviously going to think that. If you're given the power to go back to when you're 12 or 13 with the head of a 30-year-old, 35-year-old, let's say, you're going to be a dry shite, because you're thinking like a 30-year-old. You're thinking, oh no, I can't do that nowadays. I'm going to stay at home, all this sort of shit. The youthful hubris is gone, so obviously when you're in this kind
sheer fucking hubris,
sheer fucking adult dad hubris, but the thing is that you are naturally going to think that way. You're going to think more conservatively when you're older, because experience has told you to do that. And we as humans, we self-agonize over decisions and choices unless you are distinctively lack of self-awareness. In that case, congratulations, you're a lemur. But the difference is that when you put that in a Star Trek setting, and I think this is where Star Trek is really, really good at doing these things, is that it just does a good morality tale or a good hypothetical in a sci-fi environment with characters you know and love. And it just it gives you that kind of personal reflection as well. Because again, it's not a hypothetical, what if this happens to me? The reason it's being presented like this is that if you had this opportunity, it's best that you don't change this, because the consequence is more than you think. It's a bit of a butterfly effect to it, yes, you could have been more successful in one position, but you've also may have lacked somewhere else. And ultimately, would you rather what you have now, or get something else out of it? And I think the way they place that in a nice gray area for you to watch the episode in is a very easy skill in writing to lose, because you can write in that gray area and write the episode for these characters, I should say, and then some people can't help but hammer the point home and keep saying it. It's a flaw I have with New Trek, and a good bit is that they get the massive hammer with writing and subtext on it and hit you over the fucking head with it. As I know what you're doing, you don't have to keep doing this. I understand. I have a brain that works, And this is an episode that doesn't insult your intelligence in that way, and that's what I appreciate. So, with that kind of soliloquy aside, I am actually pushing for full marks in this episode, but I'd like to hear what you think, Jerry.
You know what? I can't really fault you for your reasoning. I really can't. And personally, I can't add to that either.
Hmm.
Full marks, huh?
I think so.
You know what? I think so because it deserves it. I know I do. I think it deserves it because it is that
Hmm.
good. It is one of those few episodes where it's there are no mistakes in terms of the writing and stuff like that. It's
Hmm.
just A to B to C to D, and it tells the story perfectly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's go with 10.
Yeah, because like
Let's go with a 10.
it's a nice enclosed episode. Because again, you often
Yeah.
get like ABC stories in episodes like this. There's none of this. It's just between two characters, well defined, well established, and it's just the next step in their progression. It's like when you get to the latter stages of Worf's arc, let's say, when you get up to the two parters, where you know what's happening at this stage, you're watching the story flow, and it's nice and easy because everything's been set up at this stage. You don't have to start building anything to this and so forth. When you see the two characters starting off this episode, you go, "Oh, these are Picard's friends in the academy. Cool. I'm bought. I don't need to hear any more about this stuff. I can just let
Yeah.
this play on." And it does. It doesn't like keep starting to establish. Well, remember when this happened 3 years ago when we became friends? It's like I don't give a shit. Continue on what you were doing. That's the way to do it.
You don't always have to do a massive backstory about what this person, where's this person coming from, who are these people, what are they doing, what's going on here. It's something nice and simple. Let's take Marvel for instance, or Marvel movies. It doesn't necessarily have to be the Disney ones, but Spider-Man was rebooted 3 times. First time they explained how he got his powers. Second time they explained how he got his powers. Third time they didn't need to. It had been done to death, and everybody knew who Spider-Man was. So let's just fucking get on with it. And they did, and it was the best. You know what I mean? So you don't always have to overcomplicate things. Nice and simple, done. And that's what this episode was. But it might have been nice and simple, but it was extremely good.
Yeah.
It was
Exactly.
really, really good. So yeah, it definitely deserves the full marks 10.
Okay. Next up then is the acting category, and again, Jerry, I know this is your strong suit, so I went to death about writing, so I invite you to do the same for the acting here. How did you find the cast here?
I think it's kind of a mixed bag, really.
Mm-hmm.
You have got the likes of Picard and Q putting in Oscar-winning performances as always, because that's all they do. They can't turn in an acting performance anything less than Oscar-winning. It's as simple as that. But you can't, even though and okay, yes, the episode was a Picard-centric episode. There are other people in it, and you have to judge it by all of them, not just by one man who is one of the best actors that ever lived. So you have to judge by everyone else. I think his two friends were okay. I don't think they were fantastic. I don't think they were brilliant. Especially the girls. I can't remember her name. Like whatever it was.
Beth Needs, was it? Yeah.
Yeah. I thought she was okay. She wasn't amazing. She wasn't like, oh Jesus, that was a stellar performance. It was nothing like that. I thought his other friend was a little bit better because you could just see, he's pissed off. He just, nobody cheats him. He's the one that cheats. Nobody cheats him.
Yeah.
But I don't think they were fantastic. We didn't really get to see enough of anybody else, really. So in terms of acting, you judge it on the four main characters of the episode. That would be his two friends, him and Q. So obviously, I if I could give 10 to Picard and Q all day long, I would. This is definitely not a 10 category. I just feel that even though it was a good episode, the two friends acting just was okay. It wasn't, nothing to write home about really. So to go by Picard and Q, I would go and give it 7.
Can I push you to 8? I'll tell you why, because one very underrated part of acting for me here was the rest of the crew when Picard comes back as the junior grade lieutenant. And the reason is like not necessarily Worf and Data, because like Worf kind of seems bemused when something weird happens at the best of times anyway. And that's kind of very in character. It was just like when he comes back on the bridge and he's there holding a pad, you can see Worf going, "What the fuck is this guy? What's he doing here?" And Data going, like, Data clearly seeing this guy for the first time, going, "Hello, I don't know you. Can I help you?" Type of stuff, like kind of like a kind of innocent to it. But the real like star turn in this, and again, it happens every time this fucker arrives on the show. It's Riker, and Troy to a lesser extent. And the reason I love the way they interact, because clearly this is also their first time seeing this guy in the flesh. They've seen probably his name in reports all the time. And he's always the polite guy that doesn't that keeps his head down. And then suddenly, how do you think my performance is? Do you think I have enough to be captain? And the way Frakes acts like he's trying to find compliments. It's a kind of the puffing the cheeks out and thinking punctual. He's reliable. You know, he's great.
Yeah.
You know, struggling to give compliments here. Like he's just going through all the motions. And it's a small thing, but it's a sort of thing that like they can't really do until they get to 5 or 6 seasons into these characters, where they're so natural with each other. They're able to just flip the dynamic, and it's seamless.
Yeah.
And it's off. You know what's wrong. So I think I would love to give points to Troy as well, because Troy's really blunt with Picard here. Like she is just like, you have failed. Like you have not given opportunities yourself. Like in no other context would Troy do this to Picard anyway. But because he's a lieutenant junior grade, and just the optics of how the senior staff look a bit more hard asses compared to how we know them typically in the show, but because we're obviously seeing it from Picard's point of view, I think that was just really well done. It's a very subtle thing, it's a small thing, but I had to kind of point that out because I thought it was fantastically done.
You know what? I'll go with you. I'll go with you on an 8. Sorry, it was an 8, wasn't it?
I said 8. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go with the 8 then.
Okay.
Because I agree with you there. You know, Data is Data, Worf is Worf. But when you see the other two casually having a drink, and you're like, it's Jean Luc, isn't it?
Yeah.
Lieutenant, you know, it's very good. It is very good.
Yeah. Next up then is the action. So again, we had a fast start, then a kind of a quiet enough middle, and then it picks up towards the end again. And in an episode that kind of like where someone gets stabbed in the heart twice, it kind of like it has a nice flow to like okay, so you got stabbed this time. Now let's have the kind of the reflective, pensive side, and let's build up to you getting stabbed in the heart again. So I think it was paced really well as an episode, especially from that initial hook of Picard coming in and just like suddenly just dying on the operating table, which he has a terrible habit of doing, by the way, because that's the third time that's happened to him in this fucking show. It's like he's just really stopped doing that. But like I said, and it's just it ebbs and flows really well from being action to passive, and then it kind of kicks back into gear again. And it suits the episode as well for me, because you're talking about someone who is feeling a bit ashamed of him being so chaotic in his past. So when you have the bulk of the episode that stays quite passive, essentially, it kind of fits in with how he's feeling as well, because he again, like we said in the right category, with the power of hindsight, you wouldn't have done all the kind of stupid things you would have when you were younger. So naturally, the episodes in its pacing should reflect that, because it builds back up to him going, fuck this is the way it should be. And I think that deserves a bit of attention as well. So goring wise, I'm kind of in the middle of 7 or 8. What would you think, Jerry?
I would agree with you there. You know, there wasn't enough in it to justify like a 9 or a 10 or anything like that. But what we saw was fantastic. Okay, you get that little snippet at the start. How exactly did you get this heart again? Oh, that's how you got it, isn't it? Oh, look at that. And you know, you only get a little bit of it. Then when you actually see the proper like fight scene, getting into it, you see all 3 of them fighting. It's not just him anymore. It's all 3 of them fighting, and it's fantastically done. I do believe they made a bit of a continuity mistake with regards to which Nausicaan actually stabbed him.
Yes,
because in the flashback, it's a bigger Nausicaan, and in the scene where he actually gets stabbed himself, it's the shorter Nausicaan. So they made a slight mistake there. But you know, it's not everyone's going to notice something like that. It's the reason I noticed it is because I did continuity when I went to college to study film and stuff. So it's certainly not going to take away from the action, because at the end of the day, it is going to be slightly different anyway.
Mm.
Because he has changed things and he has done things. Maybe maybe he didn't actually throw the first punch. Maybe it was his friend that threw the first punch the first time,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. But really, really good. As you said, it was nicely paced. It was nicely paced. It wasn't just thrown in your face or thrown there for no reason. So you went 7 to an 8. I'll meet you in the middle. We'll go 7.5.
7.5 it is then. And we move on then to effects. So again, we're talking visual, anything auditory, all that sort of stuff. We mentioned at the time of the uniforms, the kind of the monster maroons as they call them, and again these are kind of adapted from the Enterprise C more so. And we kind of made the point about how long these kind of uniforms lasted, which is probably a bit unusual in that sense. I know it's kind of a cost saving thing. We're not going to make a kind of adapted uniforms for the sake of this. We're going to probably just like use the ones we have anyway. But as you said, it does kind of like make you presume that like these things lasted like fucking 40 years. Like it's a long stretch for a uniform, But yeah, it's small stuff like that. Like in effects wise, I think the Damjat table is probably the most interesting thing in the episode.
Definitely.
So it intrigues you a little bit because you can see from the design, okay, so it's a mixture between billiards and pinball. I can kind of visualize, I can kind of have it as a guess how to play this game as a result. You hit all the LED fucking things, and once they're all lit up, then you can hit the ball, and that's okay. I can get that. That works.
Yeah.
So it's even from a visual thing, the game looks intuitive enough. In the same way that Dabo is essentially just roulette. You can relate to it essentially. So yeah, I think in that sense, effects was quite a decent category, but again, nothing massive. It was all very sensible and for the episode. This was an episode for effects for me. This was the strengths are elsewhere in this episode.
True, but I think we are missing out on a few different things. A few different things. So, yes, the Damjat table. For a start of the show for me, absolutely fantastic, and it's not just like a long table either. It's kind of like L-shaped. It's ever so slightly L-shaped as well. Yeah, so it's a different design. I think the design of the bar behind the bar, what was the lighting, the everything that was there, the bottles and stuff. It makes it seem more authentic to me, and I like that. I really do like that. In terms of other effects as well, the knife in the back. I thought that looked great. I thought that looked absolutely fantastic.
It's just striking visual, isn't it?
It's very, very striking. Like for Star Trek, it's like what the fuck? That is like wow. You don't see that. You see lots of people getting killed and shot and vaporized and killed with batlets and things like that, but it's not as gruesome and graphic as that. So I thought that was particularly good. And
it's a very small thing that the sash that Picard will be wearing is bleach white compared to like the girl wearing yellow and or the guy wearing yellow and her wearing gray. The fact that he's bleach white, it makes him stand out so much more.
Exactly.
It's a small thing, but it gets the point across.
And one last one as well was Commander Riker's injury to his head. I thought looked absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
That was particularly well done. Like so, 7 to an 8.
Yeah, you're gonna go 7.5 again.
Yeah.
Go. Okay, awesome. Next up then is score. I have a few positives in this episode, in this category, Jerry. But what do you think of the score? I think it's battles. I thought. This one.
For me, see, this is the thing. It's not when you think of the score. Like let's say take yesterday's Enterprise. As soon as that's finished, you still have that music in your head, and it's going to continue in your head for probably a few hours or maybe a day or so. The fact that I can't remember the music from this episode, we only finished it a few minutes ago, means it wasn't very memorable.
Okay.
To me, that's not to say it wasn't good, because it's Next Generation era music. It's always good. But the fact that I can't remember specific parts, the only thing I can really remember is the White Room. When he's first there and he's like, they
swell up the majesty of it because
exactly.
So like a lot of the score kind of just happens in the first 5 minutes of the episode, and and it's a good 5 minutes. Don't get me wrong, but as you said, it's not enough for the full episode. But the way
Exactly.
they breathe in like the panicking, stressy, oh, the captain's about to die, he's dead, and the majesty of like seeing the pearly gates and up to heaven, and then
Oh
when
fuck,
Q
it's Q.
emerges, and the music just goes.
Exactly.
It's just like, oh,
So,
Baltimore.
so the only memorable kind of parts for me was that,
Yeah.
and then the fight sequence. You know, you've got the music during the fight sequence, which was particularly good. But again, it's not quite as memorable as certain things. You know, I have to use comparisons here. So I look at Way of the Warrior and the music that plays during the Klingon attack. Oh my god, it's so good.
Yeah.
And then you even look at Call to Arms.
Yes.
I will never forget the score from Call to Arms as long as I live, because that to me is probably the most memorable Star Trek show score of any, apart from maybe the Borg, the Best of Both Worlds. That's the only. I think the three strongest categories for scores anyway would be what we've always already watched, which was our number one seeded pick. I can never remember the name of it though.
Pale Moonlight.
The Pale Moonlight. Thank you. That music in that is just it's so to the tone of the episode. It's scary.
Yeah,
it's so to the tone. Then you got the likes of Call to Arms, whereas that it's very specific music made for the Dominion, and they missed the trick by never using that music again, because they should have. It should have been like the Imperial March for the Dominion. That's what it should have been, and it wasn't. And I'm so sick that it wasn't, because it was fantastic.
And what we just read from the episode, Amok Time as well. Like
like but that's just it. If you have never ever watched a Star Trek episode in your life, and you hear somebody going, you know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
And you'll start humming it.
Yeah.
Because you'll know what it is, you know? So those are the memorable things that you think of when you think of scores in Star Trek episodes. Not so much this one. It's good. It's a Next Generation era music. They have good music writers and musicians and stuff like that. But for me, it just wasn't memorable. So, 5.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on 5 then. Yeah, because like I said, they needed more for the episodes essentially, and they just went quiet until the final act really. So I agree with you on that one. The next episode here, next category I should say, is scenes. And for me, this is a strong category. There's a lot of fantastic scenes in this episode. Again, typically when you have good writing, you have good scenes to go with, because scenes can be kind of like a good culmination of everything into this position. And again, a lot of the ones with Q and Picard's dynamic is just, they're so very appropriate for the characters that moment, especially when it starts rattling into the end of Act 2 to all of Act 3. Every scene is fantastic, is so well done. From Picard fucking up Corey and ruining the fight, to then snapping back into the Enterprise as a blue shirt proverbially, and again, all those scenes where like he's a stranger to the people like he's commanding, you know, and all these small scenes, and it just builds up to him and Q having this kind of dynamic then, and Q actually getting the point of this episode. They're all superbly well done. They're all fantastic scenes. There is a bit of wasted movement in between when they're trying to like kind of establish who the other two are, and I understand that. I think you do need to do that a bit in that episode. But ultimately, it's still up to the point of even the scenes where they're establishing what happened to Picard and all that. They're still important scenes of the episode. Like, they're not wasted in any sense. So maybe it takes a point off or two for losing kind of focused in the middle. But again, middle of the episode, you need to keep the ball rolling. I understand this. So, what I give it? Possibly an 8 or a 9 in that sense.
I think I'd go for an 8 for the simple fact, you know. Okay. I wouldn't go a 9 or a 10, you know, that'd just be too high. Some really, really great scenes in this. For me, I thought the chat with Q when he's in the white, you know, Welcome to the afterlife. You're dead. I don't know why I like saying that line, because it's welcome to the afterlife. You're dead. It's that, like, it's literally, pun intended, the dead look in his face. You're dead.
Yes.
It's fantastic. The chat they have during that between him saying you're dead and
Mm.
when he's kind of like, okay, well, I'm going to give you another chance, and whoosh, away you go. Thought that was particularly good. I thought the scene with him, Riker, and Troy was fantastic.
Mm.
And it's because, as what you said earlier on, is the fact that their acting in it was superb, because they basically acted like they didn't know him, because they didn't know him. You know, they didn't, and it was really, really well done. So yeah, I'll go an 8 if you're going out tonight. So I'll go an 8.
Yep, absolutely. Move on then to character, and again, this is one of the stronger scenes categories for me. I keep saying scenes, stronger categories for me in this one as well. Again, this is a Q episode, and John Delancey steals it for me. Between him and Picard, because he is just having so much fun with this.
Yeah.
Outside of all the Q episodes where he's taking Picard out of his comfort zone, I think this is the one that matters the most in the grand scheme of things. Because again, we did Cupid, it was a bit of fun in a sense. It was poking fun at the fact that, like, at Picard not being able to, get a love of your life. No, you still can't do it. No, you can't do it. All the other ones were like, there were challenges to his intellect or to his to some part of his personality. Whereas this one was more about Picard's kind of like very latent regrets of his past. And again, we mentioned before, he brings us up all the fucking time. Like, literally, if you go to a service history and go, oh, what happened here? It goes, oh, it was a terrible time. I turned left instead of right. I regret this and that's my years. It's like, Jesus, man, you're bringing the mood down here, But this delves into that kind of that regretful part of his character. And it's down to Q to basically drag that part out of it. Because again, he is acting when Picard is telling him the story of all this, that this is new information to him. He's omnipotent. He probably fucking read the Wikipedia before he started this episode. You know what I mean? But he is getting Picard to tell him to flesh out Picard's part of it himself. And for me, the kicker of this whole thing, and it's why I'm giving it such a high score personally, is that monologue that Q gives at the end. He goes like, that Picard didn't have a brush with death. That Picard didn't lead the away team of Mentok 4 or whatever it was. That Picard never took control of the Stargazer when his captain was killed. And it's just like, it's driving home the point. It's like, all your decisions have led you to this point. If you had chickened out, if you had played it safe, you would not have made it to being captain. And he's just drilling home the point. It's almost like the comparison I'd use, the two comparisons I'd use here in terms of character. There's one episode, I think it's in the last season of Deep Space Nine, where Sisko's having that kind of crisis of confidence after losing Jadzia. He goes back to working in his dad's kitchen, and he has that kind of that vision by the prophets, and it's about I think is it with Benny Russell, I think, or I can't remember, or is it something else? No, it was him realizing that he was his mother was a prophet.
Was a prophet, yeah.
And
there was a scene in it when he's in the desert and he's digging, and he does have a vision of Benny writing on the wall. But Benny hasn't finished the story, and the Doctor, who's played by Damar,
that's right, yes,
Casey Biggs, is like, here's the paint, just paint over it. And had Benny painted over it, the prophets would have never came back. The Federation would have lost the war. He would have stayed on Earth until it was conquered. That would have been it. So that's the type of thing you're kind of looking for, really.
Yeah, that's it. That's a similar type of vein where it's like, where for that the purpose of that episode was to get Sisko back in the game, because he was demoralized, he was shattered, and again, this is like a couple of years into the war with the Dominion. He's a broken man. But as I said, with Benny Russell, he had to finish the story as much as Sisko has to finish the fight. This is slightly different, where like Picard didn't necessarily need any motivation. There wasn't anything wrong with him. There wasn't anything happening at this stage. Because again, he's had a lot of shit happening over the last few seasons, and Q, it would have been nice if Q was there for some of that, to get him back in the game. But this is just this was Q going like, do you know what? This seems like a right time to talk about your death, and all this sort of stuff. The other point of comparison I will talk about, I mentioned this about character Bibles a while ago, and I thought I mentioned this now, um, because I compare this to Andrew Robinson, because he made this point, I think, in a podcast recently. I think it was the Shuttlepod show, which is good fun. I recommend if you haven't listened to it. And he talked about how he had a full character Bible for Garrick. Like he delved into the whys, the five central questions, the who, why, what, where, who, how, all this sort of stuff. Very important parts if you want to understand your character, but also delve into what you want to do with the character. Because again, he knew going in for the first episode of Deep Space Nine, because he thought it was just going to be one and done. So he made the Garrick sexually ambiguous. He made him essentially, for all intents and purposes, pansexual, and saying like, do you know what? He probably was sexually attracted to Bashir, and still is by all intents and purposes. And then as the character got fleshed out, you can see he's actually just generally like that with everyone. He's a bit kind of like just obscure and coy with everybody, but that's just his nature, and that carries into his role then, because when you put the makeup on, he goes, "That's the character. I can see it now."
Yeah.
With Q, it's slightly different, where he John Delancey, I think he knows the inner thoughts of Q. Like he knows what he's doing with Q, and you're only getting little bits of it each time in these episodes. But John Delancey himself knows what Q thinks of Picard, and I think the best thing about that is we should never know what Q actually thinks.
No, absolutely.
Leave that ambiguity there, because that's where we get our input into the show as well. And the closest we got to it was the second season of Picard, where Q, as you said, says every god has his favorites, and you are certainly one of mine. And that's it. You've shown me the window. Shut it now. That's it. You don't need to see any more of it, because you've basically confirmed what a lot of people have said, have thought up to this point, and we don't need to hear anymore. In the same way, if they ever do revisit the Garrick character, and he basically goes, "I love you, Bashir," and we knew this. This is not news, but thank you for confirming it.
Exactly.
Kind of effect.
I think the thing with Q is he's probably one of the best written characters in all of Star Trek.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because
100%.
He and like that, I think it's part right and part Delancey. I think because Delancey will only allow you to see as much as he wants you to, and it's the same with the writers. They'll only allow you to see as much as they want you to, and you don't need to know anymore. You can guess, you can theorize, you can do whatever the hell you want, but you'll never know everything about Q. And I think he lived and breathed that character absolutely from start to finish. One of the best fleshed out characters, but also not fleshed out, if you know what I mean. It's like he's fleshed out to the point where you know him, you like him, but you don't really know him.
Yeah, you think you know.
Don't really. Yeah, you think you know him. So, what was your score? What were you scoring this?
9. That's what I was going
I'll go with a 9 for Delancey alone.
Yeah, absolutely fair. Absolutely fair. And last category then is consequences. Again, it's a strong episode for characters and for development in that sense. But I'll ask you the question, Jerry: does it matter? Is it an important episode in the grand scheme of things?
In the grand scheme of things, probably not. For the simple fact is that it was just reiterating to Picard he should stay who he has always been. Don't change who you are. Essentially, don't change who you are. You don't need to change who you are. Continue to be the person you've always been, and you'll be absolutely fine. This is not like Q Who, where it introduces to the Borg. Or Wolf 359. If Wolf 359 didn't happen, we wouldn't have Cisco and Deep Space Nine. It's not that type of thing. It's partly a throwaway episode, but in other ways it's not. It's like it's reiterating to Picard, you are who you are, and you never need to change that. I'll always be the person you've always been, and you'll get on fine. So it's minor consequences, but they're there anyway. So in terms of scoring, you couldn't really score this high, because it doesn't have kind of like the way Q says it in Picard season 2. Does it always have to have galactic purport, or wherever the word is? It doesn't always have to be about the galaxy. It can sometimes just be simply about you. And that's what this episode was. It was simply about Picard, and Picard regretting certain things, you can regret them all you want, but you should never want to change them. And that's what it is. So it's just a kind of like as you say, a one and done for Picard. So I'd only go about a 5 or 6, really.
Yeah, I think 5 is a fair score there because, as I said, like it's not something that you really see in Picard afterwards. Like all the life lessons, I think he kind of catches in All Good Things more than anything else. Like that to me is a culmination of all of Q's little kind of pep talks and seminars and stuff that way. He finally meets the crew for a poker game, and then everything that happens in the movies then is more so the kind of the more swashbuckling Picard that we see more. And again, you'd probably make that point that the movies kind of inspired that more than the show does, if that makes sense, because there was a need for an action hero with Picard, and you get that with Generations, and especially First Contact, where he goes fucking full Horatio Hornblower and just like starts shooting motherfuckers left, right, and center. And same with Insurrection, because that's more about his young rebellious side, and you see that in him. So in that sense, perhaps you might argue that like because he keep drilling into this young rebellious side, that you have a reason for the likes of Insurrection. But I think that's giving them too much credit in that sense. But yeah, I think 5 is a fair score, and I think they summarized the episode quite well. It feels like a Troy episode, but it's not.
No.
Yeah, exactly. So in terms of the final score, let's see where Tapestry ends. So we start off then at the bottom, as we always do. In 23rd place is the Voyager Conspiracy, still rooted alongside the Arsenal of Freedom, 59 and 59.5 respectively. Then we have the Enterprise Incident, our lowest ranked original series episode at 67, followed by Dear Doctor from Star Trek Enterprise at 71.5. In 19th place then is Tinker Tenor Dr. Spy, joint with the Doomsday Machine from the original series, both on 72. Then we have joint 16th is the double Next Generation entry of The Battle and Conspiracy at 73. And now in 14th place is Tapestry on 76 out of 100. So it's a smack bang mid-table episode according to our rankings.
I had a feeling it would be. I said to myself, no, this is going to be a mid, as you say, a mid-table story. It's not going to be anything fantastic, but it's not going to be anything down near the bottom. I'm happy enough with that anyway. You know.
Yeah, I think so.
It was never going to be in the top 10 or the top 5
exactly.
Or like that. You know,
it's one of those proverbial bottle shows that you kind of talk about a lot, and while it did spend a bit of money on the sets and so forth, a lot of it was just self-enclosed and between two characters, and I think that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that in a sense. But yeah, I think 76 is just a decent score, because we've watched a lot of good Star Trek on the series, so it's not a disaster.
Exactly.
But yeah, so continue the scoring then. In I think it was 15th is Tapestry, 14th is Space Seed from the original series, the Origins of Khan at 77. Then we have Trials and Tribulations on 79 from Deep Space Nine. Then we have Q Who in 12th on 80, Cupid in 11th on 81. Then we have in joint 9th The Balance of Terror and The Trouble of Tribbles, both original series, 81.5. Then we have Family from The Next Generation on 82. The Andorian Incident and Skin of Evil in joint 6th on 83. Lower Deck still 5th with the season finale No Small Parts at 83.5. And the top 4 still untouched with Emissary on 84 out of 100. Amok Time 88 out of 100. And we have Best of Both Worlds at 90.5 and In the Pale Moonlight on 91 out of 100. So still unchallenged, Jerry. Even though we did enjoy Tapestry, it just did not tick all the boxes in this sense. And In the Pale Moonlight still ranked our best episode overall.
I'm happy enough with that.
You can learn. You have learned to live with it.
Oh, I can live with it. Absolutely. Now, listen. I am very aware that we will be going into territory soon enough that I feel that the Pale Moonlight is going to be seriously threatened. Because I know you have a couple of episodes in mind. I certainly have a couple of episodes in mind. It's a thing for me where personally for me, I think the only thing that can beat In the Pale Moonlight is another Deep Space Nine episode. I don't think a Next Generation episode is going to do it. You think a Voyager episode is going to do it, don't you?
I think a Next Generation episode could
Oh, you
challenge.
in Next Gen? Okay, okay.
And it is coming up in it is going to come up this year, so I'm intrigued to see how it works. But it's funny you should mention Deep Space Nine, Jerry, because that is our next step on our joint journey. So again, we are going with a character arc for the last few episodes. We've done basically every iteration of Star Trek up to this point. We've done chronologically, of course. We've done Enterprise, original series, Next Generation. So now let's talk about Deep Space Nine. And as we said a couple of episodes ago when we gave you the full itinerary, we're going to be talking about Jake Sisko in this one, not Benjamin Sisko, because we will be spoiled for choice if we went in deep with Ben Sisko. In fact, we did really with Emissary. In fairness, that was his character episode, really.
Well, you could also argue that in the Pale Moon Light is his episode too.
Yes, very much so. Like that's this, you can see the progression from there as well, because like the Sisko of season 1 would never acquiesce to doing something like that, but season 6 has changed it. The stuff with Eddington and so forth. Yeah, exactly. But this one's about Jake Sisko, and again, if you watch Deep Space Nine, you would know Jake Sisko as the kind of like the you'll be forgiven for presuming he was the Wesley Crusher of the show, but he was absolutely not, absolutely distinctively not. And one of the reasons why he's not is because he is very much seen as he's got to give an a C story every now and then, is the best way of putting it. And but what's very always evident is the father and son relationship that we never really got in Star Trek up to this point. This was new, relatively speaking, to us, or at least for main characters in that sense. And while it's also very clear when it comes to Benjamin Sisko looking after his son and the love that's there as well, obviously Jake is the same way. But we never got a real episode that proper leaned into that. And then The Visitor came around. And if you really want to pull on some heartstrings, what you do is you take Sir Rock Lofton out of the equation. Nothing against him, but when you got Tony Todd available to play Jake Sisko, oh, you take that opportunity, don't you? You take that absolutely hands down, and that's exactly what happens here. This one is a bit of a timey-wimey episode. It's a character episode, but it's so very important to what happens at Deep Space Nine, which we will get dealt in. So, as much within the muck time, Jerry, I think The Visitor could be a dark horse. I really, really do. Because it's got the boxes in some aspects.
Yeah, because just going off memory, the writing, scenes, score, not so much action. There's not really any action in it.
Not really, no. But Tony Todd's acting.
The acting. Tony Todd is just give him every fucking show, man. Just put him in every show, every episode. He is absolutely fantastic. He has played Jake Sisko. He has played Herosian. He has played Klingons.
Yeah.
He is that good. He really is that good. He reprised his role as Kern actually in Star Trek Online, and they and they continued with the story that he had his memory wiped and he was a different Klingon afterwards. But then that he meets, because in the game you learn very quickly that Martok was killed, and there's a new Chancellor of the High Council. But what you don't know is that throughout the story, as you're going along, because it's quite a long story actually, it's lots of missions and things. It's very, very good. But you find that Martok wasn't killed. It looked like he was, but he was actually brought back by his biggest rival, which was the House of Torg, and they brought him back. So in one of the episodes, Curran, as this altered person that he is, helps you rescue Martok, and Martok's like, Curran, what the hell are you? What are you doing here? And he was like, what are you talking about? My name's not Curran, it's this. And he was like, we'll talk about it later. It's that type of thing. And it's the J.G. Hertzler plays Martok again. Tony Todd plays him. I think in the same episode you've actually got Geordi as captain of the Challenger that he was the captain of in Voyager.
In Timeless, which is our episode coming up after this.
Exactly. There you go. And it's a Galaxy class starship as well, so it's the same ship.
It is,
so it's fantastic to get all these actors out, but Tony Todd is just his performance in The Visitor. It will blow it out of the water. I can guarantee for that one, acting 10. I'm saying it now because there's just no way you couldn't give it a 10.
Yeah,
Writing probably a 10. Scenes probably a 10. Oh, wow.
We may have a new challenger. We shall see when
No,
we
no,
start.
there definitely won't be because action is going to be a 1.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. We shall see. We shall see when we watch the episode. But for now, anyway, we're gonna leave it on that cliffhanger and see when we come back to this show what happens next when it comes to the scoring. But for now, we're gonna leave you with this. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Delving back into the tapestry of Jean Luc Picard's life. I think we both enjoyed the episode, really. But however, Jerry, as always, we'll leave it with you. How is life with the man to know? How is Twitch coming along? How is all the other stuff that's happening with you at the moment, Jerry? Anything that you want to tell the people out there at the moment? How's Twitch coming along?
Twitch is not really coming along, to be honest. I haven't done anything since before Christmas, which is very sad. It's just I have a brand new job and it is taking up a bit more of my time. I'm really loving it though. It's the best job I've ever had. It's exciting. It's very different to anything I've ever done. So really, really enjoying that. Not much else really. I live a fairly boring life nowadays. Before the pandemic, I think people would have known me as somebody who went out maybe 2 or 3 nights a week. I would have drank at the time, but not so much. I was never a big drinker, so sometimes I drink, sometimes I wouldn't. Now I'm pretty much teetotaler. I kind of drink Guinness Zeros occasionally, and I will have on occasion I might have a red wine, something like that. So I said very boring, very, very boring. But I'm hoping that very soon, and we probably won't be back on the show beforehand. But I'm hoping that there will be a big announcement about something that I'm doing in the next couple of weeks. Watch this space. Check out. You will probably see it over on my Instagram, which is Jerry Souls VIP on Instagram. Hopefully I'll get to announce that soon because it's very exciting. Very exciting for me anyway. Don't know about anybody else, but it's very exciting for me. It's a huge opportunity and something that I'm going to take by the horns and just go with it, so fingers crossed that I'm able to announce that soon. But until then, you'll just have to watch my Instagram and Jerry Souls VIP over on Instagram. So fingers crossed you'll hear about it soon.
Indeed. And I don't have anything to plug because you're absolutely sick to death of me on this channel at this stage. So by all means, just watch and subscribe to Nerds of Us because we put this episode out as regularly as we can, whenever we can meet up to watch an episode and review. So subscribe, watch along the playlist, all the other episodes we've done. And you saw them all coming across on the ticker there. So if you want to watch any of them and see our thoughts on those episodes, you're more than welcome to. And by all means, subscribe to watch all of our other content on the channel. There's something for everybody here at Nerds of Us. Either if you're a Trekkie, wrestling fan, movie nerd, or something else, because that's pretty much what we do. But by all means, we'll add more and more content as time goes on. But for now, we'll leave you with this. Thank you all very much for watching. Best of all worlds. By all means, give us a like and subscribe. Comment if you have any of your thoughts on this episode yourself or any episodes you'd like us to review. Because like I said, we're always open to ideas. Anything we haven't covered already or will be covering, by all means, drop them down in the comments and they will be noted for future reference. But until then, Jerry, as always, thank you very much for joining us on this episode. And as ever, folks...